Thì trước chúng ta có nói tới tác phẩm Nhiếp Đại Thừa của Sangha, tức là thầy Anh đó. Chúng ta không biết, nhưng mà thầy Anh đi trước thầy em nhiều, thầy vô trước đi trước thầy Thế Thân, và thầy Thế Thân đang còn nghiên cứu, đang còn học hỏi tu tập theo đạo Phật Bồ Tát, và thầy rất giỏi về hữu bộ và kinh lượng bộ, và thầy đi con đường của thầy cũng có đi theo con đường Anh, và thầy nghĩ rằng Đại Thừa nó không có chính thống Phật giáo, thành ra thầy không có đọc cái tác phẩm này. Nhưng mà một đêm đó thì trời có trăng, và thầy đi thiền hành công kích Đại Thừa quá mạnh, và thầy chưa thấy được cái giá trị của tư tưởng Đại Thừa. Thì trong sách có chép lại là thầy hối hận, thầy bẻ một cây nứa, thầy tính cắt lưới của thầy, nhưng mà thầy vô trước quay lại, thầy nói em đó hả, nó làm gì đó. Thì thầy cứ thằng nói em hối hận quá, nhưng cắt lưới của em trừng phạt, và em đã nói sống cho này. Thì thầy vô trước nói em đừng có cắt cái lưỡi của em cần lắm. Bây giờ em đừng có cắt cái lưỡi đó uổng lắm, tại vì biết bao nhiêu người trong đó có anh cần cái lưỡi của em để xiển dương giáo lý Đại Thừa. Và thầy Thế Thân giữ cái lưỡi lại, là giữ cái lưỡi đó lại, và thầy đã phục vụ cho Đại Thừa một cách rất là sâu sắc. Và đó là một cặp anh em, hai người đều xuất gia cả, rất là đẹp. Hai người đó là hai người đều là mỗi người là một cây đuốc rất là cử phách trong Phật giáo Đại Thừa. Asanga vô trước, tức là không có dính, tên rất là hay, không có dính. Không có bị kẹt. Và người em đã đọc, đã nghiên cứu, đã chú giải tác phẩm của người thân. Thầy Thế Thân đã đọc tác phẩm Nhiếp Đại Thừa và đã chú thích Nhiếp Đại Thừa. Và vì vậy cho nên Nhiếp Đại Thừa đã được dịch ra chữ Nho, chữ Hán nhiều lần. Và cái bản chú giải Nhiếp Đại Thừa cũng đã được dịch ra chữ Nho, được thầy Huyền Trang dịch. Chúng ta có nhiều bản dịch Nhiếp Đại Thừa bằng chữ Hán. Có lẽ chúng ta sẽ dùng cái bản của thầy Huyền Trang. Và cái bản tiếng Pháp á, là của Etienne Lamotte, dịch bên trường Đại học Louvain và xuất bản năm 1973, 83 mới 20 năm thôi. Và thầy muốn rằng là chúng ta có dịp đọc cái chương này, ít nhất là đọc được một chương này ở trong tác phẩm Nhiếp Đại Thừa. Chương này nói về sở trí y, tức là cái nền tảng của nhận thức. Tức là thức thứ 8. Tất cả những cái nhận thức của mình đều có nền tảng ở đây thức thứ 8 cả. Và chúng ta mới biết được cái gốc gác của duy thức học. Đây là lần đầu tiên duy thức học, duy biểu học được hệ thống hóa. Ở Việt Nam chúng ta có một đức văn thống tên là Tịnh Khiết, đệ nhất tăng thống của giáo hội Phật giáo Việt Nam thống nhất. Và thầy Tịnh Khiết có một người anh cũng xuất gia tên là Tịnh Hạnh. hai anh em đều tu một chùa, rất thương nhau, tu học rất thành công. Và khi mà người ta nhìn vào hai thầy, người ta nghĩ tới thầy vô trước và thầy thế thân. Thầy anh tên là Thích Tình Hành, thầy em tên là Thích Tình Khiết. Và họ là xuất thân từ chùa Tường Văn. Tường Văn nó cũng có gốc gác ở chùa Tường Hướng. This chapter in the Mahayana Sangraha by Asanga is about the Alaya consciousness. It is in French, and I would like some of you to work on it and to have it in French. It is not easy, but you do it together. Although it is thick like that, you don't have to translate the commentary in the footnote. You only translate the main text, which is not very long. La somme du grand véhicule, the sum of a great vehicle.
Vị nào mà không có hiểu tiếng Anh thì thực tới thầy nói thầy sẽ tóm được 50 phút, nhưng mà thầy có thể tóm được thành 1 giờ 15 phút giống như khi nào. Xin quý vị người nào mà không có hiểu tiếng Anh thì phải đeo những cái ống nghe ngay khi thầy sắp đặt như thế nào để mình hiểu tiếng Anh thì mình có ống nghe.
Thì thầy nói tiếng Anh đôi khi nó không giống tiếng Việt Mỹ.
Dạ mà mình có thể học được những cái
tại vì mấy cái này á, mấy cái bài giảng này á, mà nếu mà mình không có nắm được á, thì mình đi xa không có được. Nó là rất căn bản. Sau này mình thấy được cái tâm của mình chuyển được tâm mình là nhờ mình thấy mình học những cái này. Có thành công nói 5 phút mà có thể 50.
Có gì thưa thầy là cái chữ Ý mà thầy viết ở trên bảng nó có cái tiếng Phạn là mana đó, nó có phải là mạt na không?
Đó, mana là mạt na.
Dạ, và thầy như vậy thì trong 6 công dụng của thức, tức là nhãn, nhĩ, tỷ, thiệt, thân và ý, thì cái thứ 6 đó nó có phải là mana không?
Đó là ý đó, nhưng mà không phải ý thức. Mana tức là ý, ý tức là một cái căn. Đó là cái căn. Cái đó mình sẽ từ từ mình học theo.
Yeah.
Tại vì ý có khi gọi là ý căn, nó là chỗ nương tựa cho ý thức, phát sinh ý thức. Cái đó là mình phải từ từ mình học tới. Tại vì ý với ý thức hai cái khác nhau, cũng như là nhãn với nhãn thức hai cái là khác nhau. Và như vậy không? Mình sẽ học cho có căn bản, và hễ bất cứ cái gì mà quý vị không có hiểu thì phải hỏi cho nó ra lẽ. Nếu không thì nó sẽ học giống như học toán vậy đó, rồi mình bỏ một cái phương trình đó thì kỳ sau mình có hiểu được. Tháng 12 năm 1992, chúng ta tại sông Hà trong khóa tu mùa đông. Thầy sẽ nói bằng tiếng Anh không biết trong mấy phút trước khi nói tiếng Việt trở lại. Today I will summarize a little bit the lecture given last Thursday. One thing we should try to understand is very basic concerning consciousness is consciousness always implies the subject of cognition and the object of cognition. To know is always to know something. To perceive is always to perceive something. To be aware is always to be aware of something. There cannot be any subject without object. This is very basic. This is what we begin with and we will end with. And it is not easy to understand. We might think that we understand, but we might just have understood a little bit. So keep being aware, keep practicing, and one day we will see that as an experience and not just an idea. Consciousness always implies subject and object. We tend to believe consciousness is only the subject of cognition, but that is not possible. When we are angry, anger is consciousness. Anger is one manifestation of our consciousness, but anger is always anger at something, of something, about something. There cannot be anger, just anger without any object. This is very important. When you perceive the sunshine, perception is consciousness. And to perceive here means to perceive the sunshine. There cannot be just perception without object. So there is a tendency to believe that consciousness is in us, and sometimes it goes out in order to perceive this and to understand that, to imagine this and to angry at that. Consciousness is not that. It's not like a yardstick that is already there and we use it to measure the length of something. It's not like that. Consciousness is not something ready-made and you store in ourselves, and we use it in order to perceive, to understand, to recognize this or that. So the first thing we learn is that consciousness implies subject of consciousness and object of consciousness. The manifestation of consciousness in two parts, subject and object. Without object there cannot be subject, and without object there cannot be subject. So when you say my consciousness, it may be very misleading. My consciousness of what? a consciousness must be recognized when it is manifested. It may last only for 1 second or less, and in that second we recognize its subject and its object that coexist, like left and right. Left and right cannot exist independently from each other. When there is right, there is left. So consciousness is always like subject and object at the same time. And then the next second, there may be another kind of consciousness. The object is different, and the subject, of course, is not the same. And consciousness has so many functions. And that is why we can say that consciousness is one, consciousness is 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, because consciousness got many functions, and we recognize consciousness according to these functions. So it is okay to say that consciousness is one. It is okay to say consciousness is 2 or 3 or 4. So if someone say that there are 8 consciousness, this is a kind of insight. There may be someone who say there are only 6 consciousness. This is also true, because that is also insight. We realize that there are 6 functions of consciousness, so we say there are 6 consciousness. And there are those of us who say there are 8 consciousness, and there are those of us who say there are 9 consciousness. And these things do not contradict each other. Like when you say Thầy Nhất Hạnh is 3, a poet, a monk, a social worker. Says Thầy Nhất Hạnh, there are 3 Thầy Nhất Hạnh. But someone look in me and say Thầy Nhất Hạnh is 4. Like a gardener. A gardener is also Thầy Nhất Hạnh. So you may discover other functions and aspects of Thầy Nhất Hạnh, and you can describe Thầy Nhất Hạnh as 1 or 2 or 3 and 4, and these things do not contradict each other. In psychology, one function become one entity. So please do not be surprised when you see different kind of insight concerning consciousness. And there are many teachers who present consciousness in a different way. That depends on their insight. And these insights do not necessarily contradict each other. They may complement each other. So the basic function of consciousness that we learned last time is to maintain, to hold things together. Because we always speak, we usually speak of consciousness as the function, the capacity to perceive, to understand, to imagine. But in fact, one of the basic functions of consciousness is to hold together, to hold things together, to preserve. And this is very important. If that function of holding things together is not manifested, you see that things begin to disintegrate. So it is like a magnetic force holding together. It holds together all the seeds, all the experiences. It presents a kind of coherence. And that is the basic function of consciousness. And that is why we have the word store. Storing. Storing means to keep, to preserve, to hold together. But you will see that storing means storing something. So the subject of consciousness must go together with the object of consciousness. Storing is consciousness, but the object that is being stored is also consciousness. So all the seeds, the content of alaya vijnana is also consciousness. So alaya vijnana is the storehouse, storing everything, keeping everything, maintaining everything. But alaya vijnana is also everything that is being stored in the storehouse. And sometimes we call it chitta, mind, the function of the mind. And that function of consciousness is sometimes misunderstood as a self. So another function of consciousness is to embrace that function. Another function of consciousness is to touch that function, to embrace that function, to be attached to that function, calling it as self. And this is a kind of instinct, intuition. This is the work of attachment. And this function is the function of a lover, because manas is a lover. And alaya become the victim of that lover. Alaya vijnana, the preserver, the storehouse, become the beloved one, manreri. It does not want to be the object of love, but it becomes just the victim of love, because it was misunderstood by the other aspect of consciousness called mana. So day and night, manas embrace alaya vijnana, that capacity to hold things together as this beloved one, self. And many of our perceptions, thinking, judgments are influenced by that kind of attachment of love. So the first function, holding things together, storing things, we call alaya vijnana or chitta. The second function, we call it manas, meditation, cogitating, always believing, always embracing, always recognizing it as self, as me, as mine. And the third function of consciousness is to perceive the world, to perceive the body, to perceive nature, to perceive many other things. And this is the function of the six consciousness and of the five consciousnesses of perception, of sensation. Mano Vijnana is the sixth, and also eyes consciousness, nose consciousness, ear consciousness. And we used to call it Vijnana, consciousness. So Chitta is the first, Manas is the second, and Vijnana is the third. But these things, these words are used in the sutras sometimes, one replacing the other. But when we systematize the teaching, we tend to distinguish the meaning of each word. Chitta, which means mind, is more basic, and then Manas is also mind, but the kind of mind that is attached, that is doing the work of embracing, loving, and then the Vijnana that does the work of discriminating, perceiving, and so on. It's Chitta, Mana, Vijnana, Tâm, Ý, Thức. And of course, in every aspect of consciousness, the things we begin with is always true. Any perception, any consciousness implies subject and object at the same time, and it flows. When we begin to study the 50 verses on the manifestation of consciousness, we begin with Alaya Vijnana, storehouse consciousness. We have spoken about consciousness as the storer, the keeper, and the image that is given is the earth that has the power of preserving all the seeds. And that when we spoke about that, we confirm consciousness as the subject. And then after that, we said that Alaya Vijnana is also the content, the object that is being stored. So we speak of the object. So Alaya Vijnana is presented right away as subject and object. Later on, when we speak about other vijnana, other consciousness, and their mental properties, we also have to remember that every consciousness and every mental formations contain within itself subject and object. Last time we spoke of the 5 universal mental formations, which is touching, sparsha. So we always remember that touching is always touching something, the subject of touching and the object of touching. Manaskara means the attention to the object, or attention means also the subject and the object of attention. Vedana means feeling. Feeling also has a subject and object. Samsna, perception also has subject and object. And Cetana, volition also has subject and object. So we train ourselves in order to see, to remember, to touch the fact that consciousness is always subject and object consciousness. Suppose you contemplate the oak tree, the 2 oak trees in the lower hamlet. You perceive the existence, the presence of the 2 oak trees. And if you are aware of the way your consciousness operates, you would not say, think or believe that these oak trees are something that exists independently from your consciousness. You think that you have your consciousness with you, and these 2 oak trees, they exist separately. And there is a time when your consciousness come and touch the tree. Your consciousness is like the left hand, and the oak tree like the right hand. They exist separately, and when they come together, you see the oak tree. This is completely wrong. It's not like that. Because according to what we learn, consciousness cannot be just consciousness of nothing. Consciousness always implies subject and object. You are conscious of what? You think of what? You see what? And this, you have to train ourselves in order to see. You cannot just listen to a lecture and you understand. The fact is that when you are contemplating the 2 oak trees, the oak trees are the subject, the object of your consciousness. So it is your consciousness. Because consciousness has 2 parts, subject and object. What you can say, what you can be sure of, is that the oak trees are the object of your consciousness. And being object of consciousness, we are consciousness. Here is the perception. I perceive the oak trees. So there is a perceiver and there is the perceived. And the oak tree is here. So this oak tree that you think to be an independent thing that exists outside of you, first of all, is just the object of your consciousness. The object of your consciousness. That's the only thing you can be sure of. Because perception means perceiving and perceive. The subject of perception and the object of perception. So the two or three that are standing there, they stand in your consciousness. Also the notion of time, of space, all these are objects of your consciousness. So the belief that the two or three are standing in time and space independently from your consciousness is what we have to consider. Consciousness manifests itself into subject and object. And if you believe that half of consciousness always stay in use independently, you don't know what is consciousness. It's like when they say eating always means eating something. They just cannot be eating without anything to eat. Consciousness is like that. We begin by telling each other that, and we will end our study and our practice with that. It's very important. So someone you hate or someone you love is also like your object. That someone whom you love or you hate is the subject, the object of your consciousness. It's not an independent entity. All of that person, or maybe you like to say most of that person, has been created by your own consciousness. In fact, that when you love someone, you fall in love with someone, the object of your love is almost entirely created by yourself. You create an image of your beloved one, and it needs 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years for you to recognize that. Mental construction. And when you discover aspects that you have not seen in the beginning, these aspects also come from your consciousness, because they are also object of your consciousness. And consciousness has individual and collective aspects. So that is something that we are going to learn. Something beautiful, recognized as beautiful by you and by another one, and both of you recognize it as beautiful because there is the aspect of collective consciousness recognizing that. So the manifestation of consciousness into subject and object the object of consciousness is also the creation of consciousness. Even if another person confirms that he sees the same thing, still construction consciousness, because that is a collective conception of consciousness. Suppose last night you saw a ghost. You screamed. And you told your Dharma brother, your Dharma brother said, well, that's entirely your imagination. And you are very angry. He said, not only I saw it, but my sister in the Dharma, she saw it also. So if another person saw the ghost must be real, objective. And the brother in the Dharma said, well, the brother in the Dharma still can smile and say that, well, I believe you that your sister also saw it, but it's always the collective creation of you and your sister. And sometimes it's not 2, but 3 or 4 or 5, the whole, think of the stock market. Only speculation change the whole world. See? That's speculation about money, economic conditions, and you create a lot of misery and fear to the world. And that is the creation of our consciousness. And peace and war and everything else is the creation of our consciousness, individual and collective. And these things we are going to learn. The other day we draw a tangerine, a 5 sections of the tangerine. We see form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Each section of our person is like a river, the river of form. Everything is changing. You have the river of feelings, the river of perceptions, of mental formations, and consciousness itself is a river. All those things are born, stay and die. They succeed each other. They form a kind of continuous stream. And the practice of Buddhist meditation is to get in touch with what is going on in your form, in your body, contemplation of the body in the body. Also, to get in touch with your feelings, to touch your feelings, to be aware of feelings, their presence, their disappearance, their appearance, and so on. Also, we touch what is happening in the stream of perceptions of mental formation and of consciousness, and we touch it deeply enough. We touch it deeply enough, and the Buddha offered us methods in order for us to be able to look deeply into each phenomenon, and that we have learned in the teaching of the three Dhammasya, the three keys: impermanence, non-self, and nirvana. So when you touch something that happens in the river of form, you touch with mindfulness. Because mindfulness is the only kind of energy that we can use in order to touch. And when we use mindfulness to touch, we begin to see more deeply into the object of our meditation. We use the key of impermanence in order to unlock the reality of the object of our contemplation. Suppose you touch your liver. Liver belong to form. You touch your liver. You touch with mindfulness. You are aware of the presence of your liver. And when you touch your liver like that, your liver feels it. Because you are using your mindfulness to recognize its presence. It will very comfort to your liver if you pay attention to it. You touch like that. And then if you touch more deeply, you begin to see the nature of impermanence. Always changing, always changing. And you begin to see the nature of non-self, of the liver. It means that your liver is made of non-liver elements. And the well-being of your liver depends on other things. Like the well-being of your liver depends on your way of eating, drinking, and many other things. So when you touch deeply, you see the reality of impermanence and of non-self of your liver. And then you begin to understand your liver. Understand the difficulties of your liver, the situation of your liver, and then you show love and care to your liver. And that kind of care and love shown to your liver is born from your insight concerning your liver, you see. If you do not have insight, and then your care and your love cannot be there. So touching your liver with mindfulness, using that mindfulness to work, using the key of impermanence and of non-self offered by the Buddha to unlock the reality of the liver, you begin to understand your liver deeply. And that deep understanding your liver bring about care, love, and the kind of action that will bring well-being to your liver. It has the power of transformation. And then if you do it enough, strong enough, you will touch the third nature of your liver, the nature of nirvana of your liver. Because nirvana is the third nature, the third characteristic of your liver. And only when you touch the nature of nirvana in your liver, that you will get the basic kind of relief, non-fear. Impermanence and non-self help you to discover the true nature of the phenomenon on the side of the historical dimension. And if you go deeply enough, you will touch the ultimate dimension of your liver. The same thing it can be done with other aspects of your form. When you touch your hair, or your lungs, or your heart, you can do the same kind of things, using these three keys in order to unlock the reality of your form. And the same thing you can do with your feelings, the feeling of pain, the feeling of anger, the feeling of insecurity. All these things should be touched by mindfulness. And these three keys can always be used in order to unlock these things, so that you have the insight about impermanence, non-self, and nirvana of that. That is truly the heart of Buddhist meditation. And the study of consciousness help you to do this more easily. There is a Vietnamese teacher of the 13th century, Thường Chiếu. He said that if you understand the way your mind operates, then the practice becomes easy. That is why studying about our consciousness and see how it works help you to practice with much more ease, and the success is much easier to succeed in the practice. Now let us continue with the 50 verses. Tiếng Việt.